Friday, everyone. We have made it to Friday. We made it through the end of November, and somehow we are into December. And not only that, we have the one and only Bob Lanham with us. And if I had like a drum set, I'd be doing.
You're crazy.
Well, that is true, but you know me, so of course I'm crazy. That is for sure. We have Bob, formerly Meta, Facebook. I think that like you should just have like used to be. Stop calling me for any Facebook problems. I'm now with Car Now. Stop calling me. Call the other number. I'm so excited to have you on. We were talking beforehand that I have a list of people that okay, I have to have these people on the show. And you were in top 5 of people I have to have on the show. So this has been a long time coming. I'm so excited to have you on the show. We are breaking down the top 10 takeaways from MRC. Before we get in there, I'm going to hand it over to you a little bit because I know unless someone's been living under a rock, they most likely know who you are. But just tell us a little bit about you, how you got in this crazy industry, and then we will jump into the top 10 takeaways from our MRC. And for me personally, it's freezing outside, so I'm kind of having a little, go back to wonderful Florida and warmth and everything in between. Yes.
Yeah, listen, I'll give you the elevator pitch. And I'm always full transparent on this one. I dated a girl whose parents owned at the time 15. I think they got to 30 stores at one point. This is in the early 90s before dealer groups were a thing. So they were actually one of the largest dealer principals. I don't think we even called them dealer groups then at the time. I don't think it was even being tracked. So when I graduated, I went down and sold cars, and I'm really thankful because they treated me as a commission-only salesperson. So my buddy and I rented an apartment in, not the greatest area because this is what we could afford. Became an F&I manager. Well, let me first say I was an internet manager. Right? I was a floor salesperson, turned internet manager when we were still trying to figure out like what is that? Like I had a gateway computer that I clicked into a dial-up in one of the offices because it was the only office with a dial-up. I love telling that story.
I love it.
And then, became an F&I manager, went through some GM school. The stores ended up, some of the stores got bought by Germain. The other ended up by Lithia a few years later. And then I got into the digital marketing space, with Microsoft and CarPoint, which became MSN Autos, then Yahoo and Yahoo Autos. And then I jumped to Hulu, which was my first startup, I guess you could say, or my first foray into startup world, and Facebook for almost 8 years. And then just transitioned to, I wake up a completely different person than I did before. Not that I had an amazing time at Meta. I just want to be clear on that. But being at Car Now is just giving me new life. So I'm ecstatic. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, well, and so are we. We're excited for any realm where you are. We're just excited wherever you are. We're like, oh, yay. Now yes. And Car Now, phenomenal company. Obviously, I have a soft spot for Car Now and for Tim Cox, like obviously anything that you all do. And so a great place to land. And when you jokingly said on stage, if you weren't at MRC, and we'll get into this, but I love the point that you're like, and I think that they're like, the worst part was that now we don't have anybody to call when we have Facebook issues and Meta problems. So yes, you don't have anybody to call now. So please stop calling him about those issues. Yes, please.
Brooke, you have no idea. I still get texts. I still get LinkedIn. And I'll tell you though, like most of us in this business, you want to help. Like it kills me that I can't help get a page published or an ad account published, or even personal profiles that have been banned for whatever reason. And, I am sorry. It's a challenge. Just so you know, almost every employee at Meta feels bad that this happens. So, don't blame any of the people. No. It's not their fault. It's a lot of the time systems' fault trying to protect a lot of things from data and whatnot.
No joke. While I were at MRC, I had a client's account. Their business manager got hacked at the account. And I was like, nope, don't go ask Bob. It's not his problem. He can't do anything about it. Step away from that, Brooke. Don't do it.
Yeah.
True story.
I still get them.
I know.
They'll fix it. They'll figure it out.
They did. And that's like, we got a handle, so we're all good. All right. So with that, we are going to jump into, so there's a reason why I specifically waited to do this a couple weeks after the event. So we all go to these events, and especially I mean, we all have our favorite events or events that we're eyeing. And we go into this and we take all these notes, whether you're watching virtually or you're at the event and enjoying the wonderful sun rays. And then you come back to Triberia and then you have hypothermia of the body. And then you go back and you're like, oh, I was going to implement all these things. And then I wrote them in a notebook. And now the notebook is nowhere to be found. And I don't remember what I was supposed to implement. So that's why I wanted to wait a little bit and then jump into this now. We had the holidays and there's so much going on. So let's just go back in this a little bit. And this is not really I'll say it's top 10. It might be a little bit more than top 10, but just kind of some of the things that we took away. And I was talking a lot and in different things. And so I wanted to bring in someone else that was, Bob also was he was on the main stage doing his thing and showering us with his wonderful ideas and his words, and just kind of go through this of some of our takeaways from it. And that way also it jogs others' memories of like, hey, wait, yeah, that's some things that we were going to implement that we kind of forgot to do that. And Dave O'Brien was there as well. Steve, you were there. Sarah was doing her thing, and Dave did an awesome job as well. So let's.
I love Steve's comment, by the way. Like,
yeah, I'm going to throw this up again.
Any more true, right? And we're not going to involve unless you attend. And you know what I love what you said earlier, or you know what I was thinking when you were talking about sort of introducing the top 10, at least our top 10.
Yeah,
I think we probably all go and we take away different things simply because we're in different situations. And that's what I love to talk about. So we all have our different passions for maybe what, you know, the business that we're in, or maybe the thought that we're, you know, currently thinking. So I would love to hear, as you and I are chatting, I would love to hear what other people's takeaways are, or even add on to the takeaways that we had if we missed a point or two.
Yeah, throw them in the chat. We'll keep, like I said, it's a top 10-ish. Ish being the key word there. Add to, let's just keep this thing rocking and rolling here. And for those that are listening to this later on, for anyone that's new to this or the first time watching this, while we stream this live, the post-production later on, when this goes into podcast land and when it goes into YouTube, we go through and I actually add more content to this. So there'll be different videos or GIFs or whatever it may be, or I'll add different things to this. But for everyone that's listening to this in podcast land, Steve Apicella, who his strategic DX, and that strategic is the hardest word, one of the hardest words for me to say. Like I'm like strategic. I can't say it. So I'm just going to say your dealer experience, Steve. He said, I can't even say industry. That's where we are right now, Bob. I can't say industry. Industry events like a SodaCon, Brian Pash is at CXO, MRC, and DMSC, and Cliff Banks, Automotive are intelligently evolving their content and are ultra relevant for those seeking to lead before and after, in capital letters. So I actually should be screaming that. And after the vehicle sale in today's hashtag auto retail with a pound fist. I added the pound fist there. Yes.
Hopefully he knows that I pound fist.
We're pound fisting right there.
I'm hoping he did.
Yes. So, and it's so true. And that was something Steve and I had the honor to speak at the CXO Summit, especially about that topic in particular, about connecting the disconnected, which is something we're going to get into. So I'm going to start it off with just the basic, and I'm going to let you jump in here. You keep saying MRC, Brooke. Why do you see MRC? Well, it's a modern retail conference. Wasn't this called something else before? So that's the first one, very obvious one. It used to be called, we'll call it the AAAS Summit. Some people call it the ASS Conference. But the AAAS Conference was formerly known as the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit, now called easily MRC, or Modern Retail Conference. So I'll say that's number one. Again, no particular order. So now I'm gonna go back over to a little ping pong here. What was one of your takeaways here, Bob?
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump to one of mine, and by the way, like you and I don't think we need to say this, but everybody did a fantastic job at the event. So
yes.
If we don't mention your session, please know it has nothing to do with the fact that it wasn't well received. Is maybe we couldn't get to it because there was a lot. So one of my favorites was seeing OEMs there, and Kirk from Audi. I don't know how to pronounce his last name correctly. I think it's Precer. We'll go with Precer. Sorry, Kirk, if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. But the fact that an OEM is on stage, mapping out their beliefs, their roadmap, their thoughts, right? Knowing that they have Audi dealers they have competitive brands in the audience, I thought was just finally fantastic to see OEMs involved. I mean, we're only going to get better if the OEMs and the dealer relations are, as good as they can, possibly be. And I think attending is the first way to go about it. But his content was fantastic. I mean, he dealer friendly, right? Like, how can we work with the dealers together to figure out what digital retailing looks like from tier 1 down to tier 3? And that was my first takeaway, because I thought it was a fantastic session. And it was the last session of the day. And I know a lot of people were fried. It's a lot of content, but if you attended, it was great. And if you didn't, and this is not a plug, you and I make no money off of Brian Pash's and Glenn Pash's event, so we're not making a dime.
No.
You can watch it all virtually.
Yep.
So go to modernretailconference.com and watch it virtually, especially the Monday keynote at 11:30. Oh, worth it.
Oh, I hear it was like some awesome guy that spoke. I something like that, I hear.
Can we get the James Klaus's comment? Because
I
know that was the first session of the entire event. So I love that.
Yep. So James says one takeaway was how much further we had. Damn it, Brooke, get your crap together right now. Unique York. The brown fox jumped. Brown cow. One takeaway was how much further we have as an industry on A4 with the all right. We need some scotch in here.
With the constant changes, everyone needs to stay agile and not speak in absolutes.
See, this is why we got him on here. This is what we're doing today. It's a Friday.
I did not attend that session, but I heard it was really. First of all, I heard it got. I don't want to say heated. That's the bad word. Passionate. Passionate is the word I'll use, which is what we need. That's the only way to move forward is if people are passionate about what we do. It got passionate, but from what I understand, we still have work to do on standardizing GA4 across the industry. Yes.
Yes. And so, and coming off of that, and because there was a whole track on that, which we're going to get to in a little bit here, is going back to your whether it's that session or any of the sessions, going to Steve Apicel's comment here right now, the caliber of attendees, speakers, and content was a 10 out of 10 on the Modern Retail Conference. Hell yes, it was. I couldn't agree more on that, on Steve. Yes. And James, you are 100% right on that. And that's one thing I like as well, is sometimes, whether it's a conference or if you're in a room together, sometimes it's a vacuum. And what the problem with that is or not a vacuum, a echo chamber. And it's too many of the same ideas. And it's like, no, in order to grow, you need a little bit of pushback. And the GA4 was a good one, because you had, well, I'll say like a Dan Moore or a James, and then so as we're up there speaking and teaching, it was like, hey, well, what about this? Well, what about this? Well, we have a question about this. It's like, hey, that's great. That's awesome, because this has to be a continually education situation. And this is in no way. And as we're talking about, let's just jump into this next one up here. I'm just going to throw up here is that there was such a big time focus on and I cannot emphasize enough how this is an ever changing GA4 and the ASC 1.0. And I also emphasize 1.0 and ASC is Automotive Standard Council, is that this is ever changing. And going back to James's comment is that this is just the beginning. And how we have at the time, there was 80 plus companies. I think there's 100 companies coming together, reaching across the aisle. And that I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, is that this is only the beginning. And everyone, as we reach across the aisle, that this can just be the one time we reach across the aisle. This has got to be going into the future. We continue to reach across the aisle and say, how can I help you? How may I help you? What can we do to continue to do this? I mean, even this week, there have been multiple emails back and forth. We have another meeting. I think it's on Tuesday, that we're coming together and say, okay, what about this? What about this? What about this naming convention? What about this? And so we just have to continue this. And there was such a massive, massive focus on that. So yes, I think we spoke like 6 times on this one. So yeah,
I'm just happy the fact, I mean, we do need to take a step back sometimes, as frustrating as I know the conversations can be, that we're having the conversations. I mean, that alone is extremely impressive. And, I always go back to, I always say this, right? This is like, and I see this at Car Now, and I saw this at Meta, right? I'd have a dealer right to my left. Bob, your platform is the worst platform in existence of platforms. You should shut down, file bankruptcy, and everyone should be fired. And then the person right to my right is like, Bob, I spend 155% of my money on your platform. It's the only platform I use. It's the best. And I'm like, but they're the same platforms. So how can it work for one and not for the other? And you know, a lot of it comes down to how people measure, right? It's not always apples to apples, how people execute, right? It's definitely not apples to apples. So the closer we can get to, you always think about 20 group composites, right? You've got major financial decisions being made that equate to, you know, hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars being made off of data that may not necessarily be as accurate as it needs to be. And this should at the very least get us closer to that. So I'm excited about that.
Yes, and I know that obviously Vista Dash is helping with that as well. But it is. I mean, and you have there's so many things that are there's been a lot of hype and scary hype around this GA4, and some of is true, but a lot of it's the same. It's just knowing where to click, but also understand is that I've said this multiple times. It's like a toddler. Like you tell the toddler, put on your shoes, and then no, I don't want to. Well, please put on your shoes. Nope, I don't want to. So sometimes GA4, because it's so new and it's still under development, it's just not going to work. So knowing that, okay, as you said, apples to apples, we said this a lot during our sessions that before we were, you know, measuring apples to apples. Now it's like, now we're measuring it's instead of apples to apples, it's a Gala to a Fuji apple. So it's it's a lot.
Brooke, what's the name of the podcast?
Facts, Not Feelings.
Not the feel. I mean, we need to start making decisions more on the facts, right?
Funny concept, right?
And listen,
funny concept.
We'll have plenty of feelings and we'll still buy from people that we like and we'll still do, but that you'll at least know that if you choose to buy something that might not necessarily perform as well as due to all of it, you at least know that. And then it becomes on you, not necessarily just well, I can make anything work. Here's one of my biggest takeaways, and I'd be curious if others took this as a way as well, but I attended a number of sessions, and then including mine, I brought this up a little bit. It was about changing the culture, and I'll put / process regarding digital retailing, regarding messaging, regarding lead gen, right? Regarding the process behind it. And I got to listen to a trainer, you know, an organization that trains people in store. They don't sell a platform or a product. And I thought it was fascinating. Listen to the dealers talk about, you know, they're very successful with their digital retailing process. And the way they became successful is they had to change the dealership culture around it. And it's, you know, I'll tell you, we as a leadership team at CarNow just had this conversation, which goes back to what I said earlier. You know, why does our product work for one dealer, but maybe not as well as another, even though it's the exact same product? And it goes around process, right? It goes around culture and belief. And I truly hope, I think we've evolved immensely from 3 years ago, 4 years ago, clearly 5 years ago. But I hope that, you know, I think the pandemic might have, or the last year might have taken us a step back simply because we're selling cars regardless. I mean, I know November was a fantastic month for many, many, many stores out there. So how do you change your process and culture when life is really good? So I know, you know, a couple of the sessions was about the Toyota Smart Path and how it was less about the platform and more about the culture around it. So I just wanted to bring that up because I sat in another session with Carlos. I think we'll get to that, of LaFontaine, and that's what he talked about. He's like, you know, we changed lead forms to conversations with CarNow, and they use a different digital retailing platform. He goes, but it doesn't work unless everyone's bought in. And that's culture. So you want to double your leads, right? Maybe through a conversation versus a lead form. The platform doesn't just instantly do that. Like, yes, we can arbitrarily just increase stuff, but then you have to, on the back end, take it from there. So I embraced maybe my next few as culture.
Yes, and I think I don't know if we did this one. Did we just hit this one already? I don't know if I threw that one up
Well,
there or not.
I sort of combined my.
I kept trying to throw those up there.
All in one because, I know we're still lead gen focused. I totally get it, and I know some platforms will still sell to that lead form concept because it hits a CRM, and pay plans are still based around a CRM input and so on. I totally get it. Not looking to sort of blow that model up instantly and change it. But at the end of the day, if we're going to still follow that methodology, I guess there's still a culture change that needs to happen around current consumer behavior, right? Like, and sentiment. I just want to tell this one story, and I know Kevin Fry listens quite a bit on this one, but man, outside of the brilliance that Kevin talks about when he's presenting, if you ever just sit down with Kevin for lunch and you talk about what they do around the store, and he's really open about it. That's probably one of the most things I respect about Kevin is that he's just open about what he's doing. He doesn't just measure lead form inputs or cost per convert. He's measuring sentiment. And if you don't know what that means, that's essentially emotion, first thought. And he's surveying his marketplace to say, if you're in market to buy a car, what's the first dealership you think of? Is it theirs? Is it Weiler? Is it one of their competitors? And then he backs into how and I won't get into this, I'll let him get into this part, but then he backs into how to build sentiment, right? How to build awareness, how to build that emotion so that your brand or your dealership is front and center. So that's another culture. Like you can't walk into a dealer and be like, oh, we're going to start measuring sentiment, not lead gen, not lead. Like, oh, you'd be thrown out in 15 seconds.
I agree. Yeah. And to me, and once again, it's if you just rename something, you're just renaming it. And what does it really matter? And so when I hear the word lead, I literally cringe. And so to me, the reason I change it is it's an opportunity, because to me, if you start thinking leads and that's all that's in your mind, then when you have a digital retailing tool, which is just a buzzword, that's all you're going to think of as a lead. Well, then that's a problem, because then you're seeing it as a lead generation tool. And that's not what it is. When you think of it as an opportunity, then everything that comes in is an opportunity. So that's, yeah. And if you go back to Kevin Fry and what he's done with making everything a conversational tool, it's same thing. It's taking the forms off the website and making it conversational. And that only works going back to the very beginning as what is it we're trying to do and what are we trying to accomplish? Is everyone on board? Is the process in place? And making sure everything is moving in that direction. And that's the only way it's ever going to work. If you just say, once again, it's out of a 20 group, it's going to be awesome. This is what we're going to do. Great. What is the process in place? What happens when someone is sitting in front of you? If your salespeople are answering those leads or those chats, what happens when a live person's in front of them? Well, I didn't think about that. Well,
and I want to give, the Carlos Colitos of LaFontaine and Walt Massey, who have also taken that.
Yep.
I don't even want to call it a leap, because it's not even a leap. Like it's just understanding consumer behavior, but nonetheless, we'll call it a leap because it's not standard in our industry of removing lead forms, right?
It's a lead form. Yes.
So a conversation, simply because that's the behavior. Like you guys have to think about the behavior that makes it more easily accessible, or just even more comfortable for people to engage with a business. And conversational commerce, I mean, at the moment truly is one of, if not the best way to do that. So kudos to Walt Massey, kudos to LaFontaine, kudos to the leaders for also taking that leave. I always feel bad talking about Kevin Fry, who did this 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It's almost like he's probably like, yeah, I did that 3 years ago. I'm on to something else. And I know he is, but it's not an industry norm, and we need to get closer to that.
Agreed. It's I'm just gonna say agree to that one. So we hit a whole lot there. That was all
I hit my 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all in that one. So I apologize.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We're rocking and rolling. It's all good. So kind of going back to it, we've talked a little bit about whether it was the data with GA4 and hitting the customer, not hitting the customer. Please don't hit your customer. Don't hit your customer. But knowing where your customer is at all times. But how to exactly do that? Well, we go back to this data. Obviously, the name of the podcast we said is Facts Not Feelings. And in order to do that, data is going to drive that decision. So that was one thing in particular we talked about, was the data portion. So that's one thing that I definitely saw. And I want to make it very clear that anyone that knows me knows that I'm a very an analytic person. So there is a lot of data that's involved when you're doing anything, and that should drive the decision. You also have to understand that there's certain things that data is never going to be able to find. So if I ask you, hey, what was your ROI on your TV commercial? Now someone is going to try to tell you, oh, it drove a lot of, no, I'm sorry, bullshit. No, it didn't. Like, you're going to try to tell me it did, but you can't really tell me the ROI of a TV commercial that is in the house on cable. Like, that's just, it's really difficult. I was talking to Sarah Ciciola that there's a billboard on Love in Chicago. And I think the going rate, at least it wasn't post-pandemic, I'm not sure now, but it's like $90,000 a month to have a billboard in Chicago.
You know what 90 grand a month on digital would get you?
Exactly. So to tell me the ROI on that billboard, you can't. Like, now, has Chicago done a lot of studies to say how many people drive by and are sitting? Yeah, they have 100%. But if you try to tell me the true ROI on that, no. Now, it's branding. The same thing goes for Facebook or for community outreach. There's just certain things that you're not going to be able to track. So that is one thing that I just want to make very clear, and that there's just, use the data to get there on certain things, but understand there's certain things that you just do because it's great branding. It's great to get the word out there of who you are and who you are. More importantly, who you are. So
I posted, I think for everybody, time's a blur the last couple of years. I can't remember last year or the year before, a study that I found. Third party, wasn't mine. It wasn't anybody in the industries. Actually, it was a non-industry. Mean impressions don't
sell.
And it was on TV. It was on the ROI of TV. And actually, the study was telling how it provides a negative ROI. And it was going through, I mean, it was a very long, very detailed, highly educated educational study. So I had to read it like 55 times so I could understand it. But you want to know the number one reason. This is the number one reason why marketers wouldn't move away from TV.
They're used to it.
Fear of change. That's exactly right. But we've always been doing it, and I guess sales are okay.
It's always been done this way. We can't do it. Give me the Foursquare and the Sharpie, please. Thank you.
Fear of change. And even though the data, according to this study, even though the data was showing a negative ROI, CMOs and marketers, the decision makers, were not going to make that change. Could you imagine, you sponsor whatever major sporting event every year, and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do that this year. Like, I know that happens. So actually, that does happen often. Do those businesses go out of business? Do their sales tank? Like, what happens when a sponsorship's renewed for that business that has owned it for the last couple of years?
And we all work with companies that don't. And last I checked, they still have a name on the building that's theirs. Okay, that's checking.
But you know my shtick. Anyone that's listening that has heard me talk, I'm still all about marketing mix modeling or media mix modeling. I'm never here to say TV doesn't work, don't buy it. Like, there's probably value in every marketing channel. You just don't know it until you measure it all holistically, right? To see the true impact of your entire business. Like, I'll debate anybody. I think we all would. If someone comes to me and says, this one company drives 90% of my sales, even though I do all this other marketing. Like, you just,
no.
Well, they give me the most leads. Okay, well, but that's not how it works.
What is that? Okay. Oh man. And on that same token, I'm going to bring up Steve's comment again here on the data point, and I just got some of my contacts. So if I randomly start crying out of one side, I am emotional with that comment. It very much touched me, Bob. It's just I'm going to be emotional out of one eye here. Is Steve Apicella said that defining connected retailers is either a new way to sell a car or how to earn a lifetime customer is where our industry attention needs to be focused if we desire anything more than a one-time transaction. So oddly enough, that is a great segue into the second part of this of the data, using data to drive our decisions. So that was another thing that not only that Steve and I discussed on our CXO discussion and our topics, but also that was talked by, and I apologize, I can't remember the individual that spoke before Steve and I, but it was also brought up as well as are we using this data that is just at our fingertips to measure CLV, which is customer lifetime value? Because if we're not, man, we need to be. Because if we're exactly what Steve is saying right here is that if we're only so focused on, hey, let's just sell the car and sell the car, we are just lighting money on fire because it takes so much money to then gather and obtain a new customer when we can just keep it's like 80% of our profits come from the customers we have. So we need to keep that customer. And I can sit and spew all this, but I'm not going to because for time's sake, but we got to be measuring our customer lifetime value right now. It is just
we
imperative.
talked about, I mean, the lot of there's CDP, CDXP, right? Were those two acronyms? Not, I think there were multiple sessions on. This is what I hope CDPs bring to the industry that CRMs, frankly, I think failed to, which is lifetime value.
Yep.
I truly hope CDPs bring that lifetime value, because I talked about this at NADA last year with Adam Stone on that little mini stage right in front of the doors. That was a really interesting stage, but nonetheless, you nailed it. Like lifetime value. If you can learn to market to your current customers, right, they will drive the most money for you. You'll cut so much cost out of your line items because your customers will. But loyalty at the moment, at the brand level, at the dealership level, is still at an all-time low, I think, or pretty close to an all-time low. And I very rarely see any loyalty marketing or any LTV based marketing. I never understood it. Did we not have the platforms? Do we not have it? Well, CDPs fix that. Like, I would love to just know why we don't focus on it.
Well, and I think, I say this because I see it all the time. I'm not sure, Bob, you see this. When was the last time that you, as a dealership, you reached out to your consumer, not because your lease was due in 3 months, because it was time for a 6 months oil checkup or oil filter, that you actually reached out and like, hey, how are things going? Or the first time that they buy a car, the first time you're hearing from them is like, hey, you should have here's some service offers for you. What? How about introduction to the service? I feel like we've also gotten away from the service handoff. Like, why? No.
Or at least part of the walk around, right? At least a part of the sale. Like, hey, I would like you to meet one of our service managers. This would be one of your contacts after you become a customer of ours. And that was mandated for us when we were selling cars. We had to walk them through the service lane and introduce them to one of either the manager or one of the writers. So I think there are many dealerships and plenty that probably still do that. But
yes,
I'll tell you this. I get 100%, and I have a high school driver. That's why I have 3 cars. So I have 3 cars. I get 100% of my service at a dealership.
Same.
And I've got 20 plus years, and I've never once ever had anyone say, hey, it's just great to see you.
Yeah.
Thanks for purchasing with us. Like, I would love a system. Like, can we alert the if the salesperson's even there? Hey, your customer's in the service lane. You're like, come and say hi if you got nothing to do.
Yes. And there are technology out there. It's just and I've had numerous conversations with my own clients and say, you have the technology to do this, right? Yeah. Well, why are you not using it? Yeah. You know how great it'd be? Like, I walk in and like, hey, and I personally have been at stores where that has actually happened, where I walk in like, hey, Brooke, it's so great to see you. Wait, what just happened here? Something was personalized for me? What is going on?
And I almost posted this on LinkedIn yesterday, and it's a little bit of a sidebar, so I apologize. And again, I'm not speaking for every dealer, because I know there are a lot of dealers that do not have this, but this is going to sound a little crazy. I go to 2 different dealers, one for oil changes and the dealer that I bought all the cars for everything else. And it's only because of the convenience of the oil change, which I think is another challenge, right? Like, I can call day of, get an appointment. The other one, it's like weeks and months out. So nonetheless, every time, doesn't matter which of the stores I go to, every time, and it's a game, because I'm like, all right, I always set the timer on my phone. It's a game how long it takes for someone to acknowledge that I'm there. Even if I pull the car into the service lane, I always say to myself, this will be interesting. I don't know how long it's going to take. Now, I know we're low on staff. I totally get it. So there's a little reprieve, but I had to get a tire fixed, nail in the tire. Luckily, I called it a favor. They got me in. And I think it took 6 minutes for one of the 4 to acknowledge that I actually pulled in the car. I had to get an oil change. I scheduled the appointment, even though I didn't have to per the signs. I could have shown up, but I've done that before and they couldn't get me in. But nonetheless, I called, I scheduled. 2 days later, I went in. 11 minutes. I just stood there. I waited. It's kind of a game. I just kind of stood there, waited. I had my computer. I had my water jug. I'm like, I'm just going to see how long it takes for somebody to. I was standing right in front of everybody. Kiosks. I don't know if that's the answer, but I know some offer kiosks.
It's frustrating. And I'm going to bring Jeff's comments up here again. Salespeople see a customer maybe once every 3 years at best. Service is certainly the key, but the hook often never gets the worm on it. And I go back to as well is that this communication thing. It's not just the people. It's the process and technology that it's just like, it just drives me bonkers that we can't have systems that talk to each other. And there's this wall automatically that F&I won't talk to service. And it's just like, just everyone talk to each other. Come on. So yeah, Jeff, you're right. It's an all-encompassing issue where the first time you pull in, and Steve knows that we talk about this all the time. The first time you pull in and they're like, hold on, what warranty did you buy? Like I literally, and people have heard me talk about this. I carry my warranty around with me in my glove box at all times, or because I get asked every single time, I'm sorry, what do you have? My first time on my new car, I pulled in and it was, they had the wrong VIN. I had the right VIN. They pulled the wrong VIN up for a car. And so the person whose ever VIN it is, when they pull in, they're going to have it. It's just, we've got to have technology at some point. I hope we get to a point that we have technology, people, process, and product for all systems, whether it's front of house and back of house. And Steve is, here we go. I know, I knew I'd trigger Steve on this one. So for industry is waiting for the first service moment to be re-engaged. A customer after the vehicle sale is too late. Connected retail means, or should mean, not having a massive vacancy between sales and service.
And that's what I think we hope well, at least I hope. I mean, we're talking about CDPs and CDXPs, like it's game changing the industry. So what will the value of CDPs and it's CDXP, whatever, yeah. CDP, whatever, customer data platform, whatever the new acronym is. Like that's what I truly hope CDPs fix, which is that behavior around connecting service and sales and follow up and LTV and all of the above. If it's just simply a different way to get audiences to remarket for new car sales, then I think we failed at what the purpose of a CDP could be for.
I agree. And Carson comes in and says, great point with James, back to the GA4 comment there. So
what a very intelligent comment from Carson.
And really I'll bring that back up here. James said James, one takeaway was how much I'm going to hopefully get it right. It takes me like 10 times to get this one right here. One takeaway is how much further we have as an industry on GA4. With the constant change, everyone needs to stay agile and not speak in absolutes. Amen on that one. And
we'll get there. I think, again, we're talking about it. So like the fact that people are yelling at each other in a room, like that's a great start. Yep. I mean, you have to have that locker room talk to get the team on the field to have that, camaraderie, to have, the result. So I'm just happy it's happening.
Yeah. Jeff is saying, make the first service point at the time of delivery. # not hard.
Okay. Jeff, I'm telling you, like if service appointments were just made for me and automatically on my calendar, whether I fully needed it or whether I was 1,000 under the oil change, or I'd go anyway. Like convenience for me is the win.
Yeah. And I think also when you're in the industry, you understand that you're going to take your car to the dealership for multiple reasons. One, you're going to get better service. It's in the right hands. And 2 or 3, 7, 8Z is that you're supporting the dealership. Like it's all inclusive. So yeah, 100%. We'll round a couple. I think we got like 2 left here.
And one we didn't, and one I do want to bring up that you and I did not put, and it was the first session I went to. And I will be honest with you, like, while I don't live that world today, like I used to yesterday, if you haven't sat in a session with Paul J. Daly or Kyle Mountseer, Nathaniel was there, Ali Pinion was there, like the content's phenomenal. Like there's no debate on that, but their energy is off the charts. Right. And that was the first work what do we call it? Workshop that I attended right after the keynote, and man, like my energy level for the rest of the day was like, let's go, like let's do this. So, and their passion is for the creative,
Mm-hmm.
which I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation with someone that said, look, I could hand you the best audience in the world to market to. I could hand you 100 people that are going to buy on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And they're telling you they're going, if you have horrendous creative, you are not going to win that business. The media plan becomes an absolute waste on the creative side of it. So spend some time, some energy and money on the creative just as much as you do all the platforms that you do to execute the media.
And to segue into that, one of the things that I literally wrote down was because I had seen Darren Dones, I'd seen his name, but I really had never really listened. I hadn't really listened to him speak. And the only workshop that I could attend was the one with Paul and Kyle. And there was, because I was speaking on all the other ones. And it was just all of a sudden they're speaking, and then Darren just kind of pipes in, and I just go, who the hell is this guy?
Who's this smart dude?
I was like, I want to be friends with this guy. And the bullet point was more or less going on the creative aspect. He's just like, whatever creators are doing right now, as long as you're good at what you do, you are insanely invaluable. And while you might not see it right now, and while you might not be appreciating what you're doing right now in your dealership, give it time, because you're going to be just cherry picked off like crazy in the near future. And he's putting dollar amounts to it and understanding like you might. Anyways, it was just, I just go, man, this guy gets it. Now, knowing his background and everything, I was just like, oh my gosh. And Jason's coming in here just saying, Darren was awesome, talked to him multiple times and let every conversation blown away. 100%.
But this is a great point about what Darren brings to the table, and Kyle and Nathaniel now, like what they're trying to bring to the table, which is, creative is king, and be social, and how to be social and be community based, brand based, which I have a huge passion for. I mean, I think brand needs to encompass everything that you do. And a lot of their stuff may not be as measurable as you would hope it would be, but it's very brand, it's very community based, which is, a challenge to measure. But we know it works, right? Like, I mean, you have to trust it. So you have to, if you're just going to say, well, how many leads it's going to get me, then we're heading backwards. So
yeah.
I just wanted to bring that measurability aspect of it, because again, you have to measure holistically, not in a silo of one ad that Ali Pinion might have put together. It just doesn't work that way. It encompasses everything.
Yes. Yeah. So I 100% agree. And I was like, oh, that's a great segue. Cause it was, and coming outside the industry and being able to see it from a different purview is very, very key. So we'll wrap this up with, we already kind of touched on it. I didn't throw up there, was just the engagement or the different tracks. Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, like, let's just and I know we've got more time, but we did put down, GLBA.
I've got it queued up right here. You read my mind.
Just
yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah. So, and I want to make it very clear is that we've been talking about this for, I know a lot of us have been talking about this, and especially since like January, we talked about it again. And I got hit up, I think I was in Florida, and they said, oh, so it's been pushed to 6 months. I go, it has, but you got to understand that it's not all of it. Like there are still things that for January you still have to do. So just be very, very cognizant that you're not taking your foot off the gas. So for instance, the information security programs, you still have to have those all written out. You have to have that all done. And if you haven't done that, that's due. Like you still have to have that in place. So just because you had a 6-month leeway, don't think that you can just put, and then the whole ADF XML thing, like anyone, once again, I've done, I don't know, 6 shows on this already. So nobody's 100% compliant, and any company that tells you are, they're not being honest with you. So they're not. And at some point, hopefully we will get to the ADF XML portion that is compliant. But just be very cognizant of the fact that the 6-month leniency is not for every single aspect of this. So yeah. Let's see. James is coming in here. Nathan's session on how Mohawk brands their salespeople was a game changer. Having that in store. Oh my, yeah, man. Ugh.
I'll tell you this. 2 years ago, Auto News wrote an article on Mohawk, Honda, Chevy. Both of them, and they interviewed Andy, the dealer principal. But obviously, he was talking about what Nathaniel has done for the business, and I'll tell you the biggest takeaway and I chatted with Andy afterwards because it's just a great article. So everybody do a search for Mohawk Honda Automotive News. You'll see the article. And Andy goes, yeah, it's really funny. When I went to my 20 group, I got a little pushback on that because it's like, it's a cost, right? Nathaniel's team is a cost. It's not necessarily a revenue driver, right? And the 20 group's like, oh, you got to cut the cost. He's like, well, hold on a second. Like that's old school thinking. Like you're looking at it this way, like we were taught, back a long time ago. It's a whole new day, and he swears the fact that what Nathaniel's team does for the business that is related to the community that helps drive their salespeople's brand awareness and so on and so it is off the charts. Like it's so unmeasurable that you can't get rid of it because of the fear of getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Which we just talked about.
Yes. And I told Nathaniel, the first time I met him and Scott was, I think it was 2-3 years ago at DMSC. And I was talking at the time and I'm presenting as Scott raises his hand and he's like contributing. And I just go, wait, hold up. Tell me, run this name again. At the time I was working at a dealership and I go, you have an entire department? And I was just like, my mind was blown. And I go, wait, so you also have, and he's like going through all the things he has. And I just go, can I come work for you guys? Like, I couldn't believe all the things they had. And it just keeps growing and growing. And they have a whole social team and all this. I go, this is like unprecedented in our industry. Like, this is amazing. I was completely blown away by it. Like, so cool. So anytime my clients, I'm like, go look at what they're doing, because whether it's social, whether it's this, like, it's just, they're phenomenal. Yeah.
And listen, like, let's give kudos to Andy and his partner for taking the risk, for investing in it, because it's not cheap on them. I mean, you've got, I think, 3 or 4 on staff, a van plus equipment, right? Plus time. Like, kudos to them for understanding the evolution of marketing and investing in that model. I give them a lot of credit for that. Yeah,
because it's not the normal, unfortunately, our industry to go to have an entire team like that. So yeah, it's amazing. And Steve, thank you so much. He says, great MRC recap. Brooke and Bob, our ongoing challenge is auto retail's mission to only sell a car and maybe a couple F&I products, or also to earn a recurring customer. Actions and leadership are required if the latter is decided. Digital lifestyle beyond digital retail.
I think we're getting there though. And I'll tell you, like, as you see the whether it's the son or daughter that has taken over the business, that may be younger, of the Gen X or millennial generation, as the more CMOs are created at dealerships, or marketing roles are created at dealerships, or maybe the GM came from the service side of the fixed ops side of it, which is very customer service focused, which has a different mentality as the sales side of it. And you see some great differences in there. I think we have a ways to go, but I'll tell you, as I said on stage at MRC, there's no industry that I know you and I would not want to be a part of other than auto retail. I do believe it's one of the heart and souls of this country, and the people. I know we'll get to this, but you asked what is the greatest thing about auto retail, and it's the people. It's just the people you come around. Even your competitors. Like, I was hanging out with a bunch of them at MRC, and listen, we're going after the same dealer, the same pot of money. We have the similar products, but yet you can still hang out with them, and you can still have a drink with them, and you can still talk shop and get along, and that's what I love about one of the best things I love about this industry.
Oh, I would say that's a perfect segue into the lightning round.
Lightning round, here we go.
All right. Before we do that, everyone, if we've missed anything, if you're watching this later on, throw in the comments. Let us know what was your favorite thing that you took
And
away
tag
from
us
it. Yeah, tag the crap out of
so we
us.
can respond.
Yeah, hell yeah, baby, hell yeah. Because it was, like I said, there was a lot to take away. There were so many different tracks, and there was a lot. Hey, if you still don't want, I was only on this one. Before I do that, Ryan is saying Nathaniel at Mohawk kills it on a hell yes, he does. On organic social is tough for most dealers to crack, so they tend to rely more on paid. The best strategy to amplify organic like content through paid spend. In fact, I'm gonna real quickly why we were out there. If you haven't seen Mohawk, they had a post that as we were going there, I think they had like 24,000 views, something like that. It was during Halloween. They all dressed up as Toy Story characters. And Andy, who is there, obviously he comes in, they all pretend like they're, they're toys and they die, not die, but they all pretend like they're asleep. So, I mean, something like that, like you don't normally see that happen. So, I mean, they just do a phenomenal job. So, yeah.
And if you don't follow Ryan on LinkedIn, like instantly follow Ryan.
Oh gosh.
Sharp,
yes.
I say kid, but I mean, he's a lot younger than me, but I mean, he's the future and it's the right future.
Yes. And wasn't Ryan 40 under 40?
Yeah, he was.
Shout out there, Ryan. And just more on GLBA. I'm just going to say yes to this, Jeff. There are more safeguards and more tentacles than most dealers realize. Pretty complex, not something they can flip a switch. And yet so many think that they can. They're like, oh, I can just do it. I'm like, no, I was talking to Tom Klein and I were talking yesterday. He was at a store for 10 hours just trying to figure it out. So yeah, it's very, very complex. So with that, jumping into the lightning round here. So I'm going to throw up the link here for everyone to find you. I always have slow down when I say that. So I'm like, I'm going to throw up the link, not throw up. So it's like, oh, one of these days. All right. So we have Bob's link up here on the screen here for anyone that they can find you. That actually is going to take them right into everywhere they can find you. But for those that are listening in podcast land, where can they find you, Bob?
LinkedIn's definitely the best place to find me. I'm on LinkedIn often, as many of us are. I think it's by far the best business social tool out there. I'd say that's the best. But, I have an Instagram account, I have a Twitter account, I have a Facebook account. If you follow this link app, it's my contact info. Feel free to call me, text me, email me. I mean, I would love to just talk shop, schedule time, when time permits. So I love to learn from those of you out there. So
awesome. And those in podcast land, it's just the linkapp.com/Bob Lanham !R = link. So there you go.
I don't think you need the !R link, but nonetheless.
Okay. And then once this goes live into podcast land, you'll see the note in the notes. It will be there as well. So, all right. What is your favorite thing to do outside of work? Favorite hobbies? What are you doing to unwind?
I know when you sent this to me, I was like, this is going to sound so corny but I think I'm showing my age a little bit, but I have a senior in high school, sophomore in high school, and a fifth grader. And, life events become more real and more impactful. So literally watching my kids grow up and going through the not only the positive, but, even more the more challenging experiences. I love every minute of it because I can just see how they're learning and, and they're building their own personality and character. Some of you are going to laugh at this. What is one of my favorite hobbies? I love cutting my grass. I follow a lot of grass cutting handles on Instagram. Yes, I might have taken pictures of times I've cut my grass. I know it's weird. But putting stripes in my grass is, I don't know. It's my brand. It's funny. We had a party, or we went to a neighborhood party down the street, and we were talking. I was like, yeah, we were going to host it, but something happened. Someone's like, on your grass? You were going to do it on your grass. I was like, fair point. Because everyone knows, don't watch the grass.
So true. So I'm reading this. And so before our yard is a little bit bigger, so I don't anymore, but before I moved out to Chicago, my family home, and I was in charge, no one else touched the grass. And I'm a diehard Yankees fan. So I had the Yankees emblem in there at one point. And each week it was something different. People would stop by my childhood home, and they'd be like, who's your landscaper? I was like, that'd be me. So I was like, I totally understand. I would get all these different books on stuff. So no,
James said it's sad. James says he's sad for me.
Hold up. Oh, you lost me there, Bob.
It's a similar story. UPS guy dropping a package off. He hands to me. He goes, I just got to tell you, I love your yard. I love how I was like, thank you, appreciate that.
And I'm not kidding. We'd have random people stop all the time, and it would be, man, your yard looks awesome. And then when I'd go off to college, they're like, oh,
What happened?
Brooke's not here. Brooke's not here. Like my mom would like try her best, and she's like, I'm just putting regular lines in it. I don't know how she does it.
Love it.
Oh man, it shows off the rails at this point. But okay, what is your favorite vacation spot?
Yeah, we have a place here in Michigan called a homestead. It's up in northern Michigan. I don't know why. It's just one of my happy places. It's very simple. It's on the lake. It's right on the water. There's a couple rivers. So I love going up there and it's just, I mean, there's 1,000 places, that you love, but this is the number one.
Okay, all right. Let's go with obviously name of the show, facts not feelings. So what are you doing in your daily life or personal life to distinguish facts from feelings?
Yeah, so I think those that know me, I'm fairly straight to the point. I'm blunt. That's probably the New Jerseyan in me. It's just kind of how we were raised to just get straight to the point. So, delivery is something that I've had to learn over years, because obviously when you're pretty straightforward or blunt, that can be taken as arrogance or probably a few other negative words that can define that. So I just don't enjoy fluff. So let's just get to the point, good or bad, and let's just figure it out from there. So I'm always trying to get to, and I'll just ask, like, what do you want? Like, what is the end game? What does success mean to you? Like, then we can back into it. So probably has to do with the fact that I'm a little impatient as well. I like to just get shit done as fast as possible, as highest quality. So what do? I just try to get straight to the point, and there's a lot of different ways of getting there.
Okay, I like it. I have no issue with that one. That's for sure. Okay, disruptor in the industry. What is the hardest or best lesson you've had to learn? Or that you have
I this is on my Clubhouse profile. I've posted this a number of times. I mean, at the end of the day, I learned this from my dad. I give my dad a lot of credit for this, but I'd rather lose the business the right way than win it the wrong way. I know I probably lose business quite a bit for the wrong, for doing it the right way, the way I sold it, and maybe it's being won the wrong way. It's just the way it is. It's, I try to play the long game. I want to make sure people understand the value. So I don't know if that is a lesson more so than a philosophy or a strategy, but hopefully, I hope everyone agrees. I truly do try to do the right thing. I try to sell whatever product I'm selling the right way with the proper expectations. And if I lose business because, someone maybe came in and maybe not have sold it the right way, and I lost because for whatever reason, and I'm okay with that.
No, I would agree with that. It's not worth it to do it otherwise. So yeah. All right, let's go with, I know we talked about this, but we'll bring it full circle here. What do you love most about the industry?
People. I mean,
Yeah,
like that was actually, MRC was one of the first, I think it was like my second conference I was able to go to for travel, and just being able to see it, like, content was fantastic. I went to a lot of the content, but I could have just hung out for 2 days with everybody, and that would have been fine for me. But yeah, the people for sure.
Yeah, it's always like difficult in a good way. You're like, what's the best thing? I'm like, I always say the people. Okay, let's try to go away from not the people, because it's like we have such amazing human beings in our industry. All right, we'll wrap it up with, what is your favorite car?
It's my car that I have now. I have a 2013 base Jeep Wrangler Sahara. Nice. I mean, cloth, no nav. I mean, it's got dial radio. It's got the CD. I'm lucky that
hold on. You might have to explain what CDs are.
Yeah, it's got the CD. I'm not even sure I ever even used it. I might have in 2013, but I've got the auxiliary cord that comes out of it that pops into my phone. I don't know why. I mean, I had a Jeep in high school. I was a landscaper in high school, which is probably why I love to cut grass. But so I bought myself at the time an '89 Wrangler 2-door Laredo.
Nice.
I got a lot of flack. I bought it used, and it was light blue, so I got some flack for that. But nonetheless, I'm a Jeep lover, so I'm going to try to keep that thing. I'm going to try to keep that thing running for as long. And I have beaten it up. I mean, I have hauled, I don't even know, wood trimmers, you know, you stick a whole
Nice.
tree in. I
Yeah.
mean, I've hauled all kinds of stuff with that thing, and it keeps on rolling.
That's what I like to hear. I love it. I love it. Well, Bob, thank you so much. It has been awesome catching up with you. And thank you for helping me break down the top 10-ish takeaways from good old MRC. And Brian Pash family, PCG, Brian Pash Enterprise, everyone there. Thank you for all the hard work behind the scenes and in front of the scenes and just everyone. It was an incredible conference. So thank you so much. I super appreciate everyone doing it. And everyone, thank you for the comments. Like I said, if you're watching this later on, let us know what were your takeaways. And yeah, thank you for those that watch live. Super appreciate it. Everyone, have a wonderful rest of your weekend, rest of your day. And as always, find a way to serve today and help your fellow human being, help your colleague, do something kind and help someone today. So, Bob, thank you so much. Super appreciate having you on the show today, dude. Super appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, everyone. We'll talk to you later on. We'll see you next week.